Hello and welcome to another episode of Fulham Chronicles. Hello, Melinda.
Hello, Zara.
How I know we're going to go again there and we keep talking about the weather, but we did have a fantastic weather. And I haven't had an amazing weather for my birthday for at least 8 years. When I turned 30, it was so cold outside that we were with turtlenecks on a boat. And it was 21st of June, first day of summer.
And now you've been celebrating in a heat wave.
I was indeed. Right, enough about me having fun and everything. Who do we have in the studio today?
So today we are very pleased to welcome Hazel Leach Evinson.
Welcome, Hazel.
And Hazel is a long-term Fulham resident,
Mm.
and she is also a potter. And she's just described herself as a potter who likes to paint. So welcome, Hazel. We're really happy to have you here. Oh,
Right.
pleasure.
Long-time resident. When did you move to Fulham?
Well, my association with Fulham came when, just before I was married, my husband was teaching at St Thomas's Catholic Church. That was in 58. We married in 59. And he decided that we loved St Thomas's parish so much in Ralston Road, and we liked Fulham. It was like our hometown Sheffield. We both came from Sheffield. So in 1961, we bought a house here.
Amazing.
And we're still in the same house. Well, I'm still in the same house. My husband died in 2005.
So you're still in the same
Same house.
Oh
yes,
my gosh.
yes.
So you were described to me as a all-round talented woman. And I've just read a bit of information about you as well. You also went to study to be a ballerina?
I
trained to
was
be
a ballerina. That was my first career before I married.
What I love, sorry for
yes.
interrupting, what I love about our podcast is that you are interviewing somebody about a complete different subject, and all of a sudden things come out like somebody's
Yes.
been like, winning competitions, has been, running miles. You'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, right. Right. So going
Yes.
back, sorry for interrupting there.
Yes. I came to London when I was 17 to the ballet school, Rambert, and then I went into the company. I was one of those unfortunate people that had injuries, and I usually got over them. But just before I married, I tore my metatarsal, and that put a stop to all point work. It got better, and I could dance and walk, play tennis if I wanted to, but I couldn't get on point without great difficulty. That would have, 2 or 3 years ahead, it would have. They didn't do operations then for metatarsals. So I married, had 3 children, and then accidentally got into pottery. I went to an adult education class, and I found the thing that I'd been missing with dancing,
so
I think.
lovely.
Was that here in Hammersmith and Fulham that you went to that
Yes,
class?
it was called Fulham and South Kensington then. It was the Institute. And I went there in 1970 when my youngest child went to full-time school. And it was a good package then. If you paid full price for one class, you could do a number of classes for a descending fee. Oh. And I was the principal said she found that I had moved my bed into the pottery, so she decided to give me a job.
And that job then led into teaching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it was the technician, because I knew all the how to make glazes and everything, and I substituted for teachers who were away. And then my big break came in 1975 when the teacher that I worked with mostly had a baby, was having a baby, and she had appendicitis, and she was away from one day to the next for the rest of the term. She was away, and I just had to take her classes. By that time, I knew the studio, I knew all the students, and how to do the kiln and everything. So I just got on with it.
Stepped
And
into the breach.
I had to have an interview at County Hall, and the question that threw me was, how do you think that you, a trained ballet dancer, can suddenly become a pottery teacher? And I went to see my teacher, Madame Rombert, when she was 92, and I told her this, and she immediately said, darling, didn't you tell them that art is universal? What makes a good potter makes a good dancer.
Mm-hmm.
You have the focus, you have the control, you know, and
Also,
said,
you need to be very good with your hands. You know, this is what I always said about, my
I
sister was a ballet
suppose.
dancer. That's why I know. I remember even now how she was in front of the mirror and learning how to plie and how to,
Hold
like,
herself in the
you
hand,
just, it's all touchy-feely, creative is, because when you're dancing, you pull yourself up.
Yeah. And also the turning, I find now, because I do a lot of work on the wheel, and that's centering, and we were always centering our bodies so that we turned and we didn't
straight now.
Yes.
All of a sudden you see the sticks in the studio.
But at 92, she was more on the ball than anybody else I ever knew. She was wonderful. I loved her.
Wow.
Yes.
So then teaching, and that was more a sort of adult education, wasn't it? So
It was
same how you had come into all of it, which is great.
Yes.
And then did you start making your own pieces to sell, or how did it?
Yes, because in 1975, I joined the Society of Fulham Artists. It wasn't potters then, it was just artists.
So how far back does the society go?
It goes back to 1953, Coronation year. And it was founded by Edith Summerskill, the politician, Lord Stewart, and Carol White, the artist. They lived in Fulham. And they only started it as a one-off on Coronation year to show, one of the celebrations of the coronation.
To put on an exhibition.
To put an exhibition of Fulham, and it was open to Fulham residents, those who taught there or who worked there, or studied there. And it was such a success that they decided they'd keep it on for a few years. And it just grew and grew.
And it's still going
It's still
today.
going,
yes.
And you were one of the sort of the longest standing
should we
member
ask,
at the moment.
Let's ask, what did you change at the society? So what did you bring?
Well,
and who told you about it? As in, how can one find himself being invited to be a member of? Because now we are talking. Well, 30 years ago, where you're being invited. Like, do you mind, Hazel? To be part of? Would you like to be part of our?
Well, it wasn't potters, and they only had a few potters or sculptors, and it began to be very much more of a thing that they had with the in the exhibitions. We had 2 exhibitions a year, and I became the potter who sort of recruited, my best students. Because, as I said, it was a good bargain, and people could come and do 2 or 3 days a week and become really good potters. At the moment now, there's no concessions for pensioners, and the fees are so high. They can only do 1 morning or 1 afternoon a week, and you don't get on very quickly like that.
No, you need to be
because by the time the next week, your thing's either not dry enough or too dry, and you can make very few pots, whereas my students got on very quickly because they were coming 2 or 3 times a week, and I encouraged them to be potters. And then we fell into the doldrums about the turn of the century. We lost our very popular president, who was Ray Garvey. He was an art teacher, had a great following in the art in Fulham, and he died very suddenly at about 58, I think he was. And I don't know, it sort of lost momentum. And by this time, I was a sort of joint chairman of the Potters. I wasn't the full chairman. There was a chairman for the painters and myself. And I called a meeting and said, we have just had an exhibition and we only sold 2 paintings and 3 pots, and that's not good enough. Now, the motion was, shall we wind the society up? We had £300 in the kitty. Shall we just have a party? Shall we have one more exhibition? But I had the meeting in the library, in the exhibition hall where we have the exhibitions. And the day before, a businessman, Martin Burchill, he has a chiropody thing on Fulham Palace Road. And I got a letter from him saying, I hear that the Society of Fulham Artists is thinking of winding up, and I've been a fan of yours for years, and I'm so sorry, but is there any way I can help? I'll give a donation of £300. I'll get you a new banner, and I'll do any paperwork you like, an actor's treasurer if you like.
Wow.
And I put this to the meeting. I said, look, we've got to, this is wonderful enthusiasm from one of our fans. So we took a vote on it, and it was it was almost unanimous. There was just one person who said, no, I think we've run our course. But after that, we seemed to get an influx in people moving into Fulham. One was a graphic artist who has a business in Putney, Tony Hannaford, and he's one of the most beautiful painters. And then there was Martin and Greta Schaefer.
I'm very pleased to hear is that you're still here.
Yes.
So you didn't let it go.
We didn't let it go.
The enthusiasm of the fans and everybody.
Yes. And, in fact, it had been the last few times, it had been the Potters who had kind of kept it going by stewarding. And so I suggested that we add the name Ann Potters to, and we have had an influx of Potters, but they're tailing off now, as I said, because of the Potters aren't coming through so much, and others are dying off for the ones that we've had in the past. But we still have a good display at the library, and now they've bought us some beautiful new plinths that go down. We used to just have tables. In 1975, we had an old Victorian piece of furniture with glass on one side and blank on the other, and it only opened at two sides, so you had to kind of put the display on, and then you had to step back and say, oh no, that pot's there, and then you had to open the door and crawl in again. And it was a terrible, it was just not very much going on then. But now we have this beautiful display, and people do, come to get their best work when they come to the exhibition.
Yeah. And Rowena Vaughan is now sort of chairing it
yes,
all up.
She is.
Who's also a very much a Fulham S6 stalwart and does so much for our community. And then there's a pop-up at the minute at Fulham Broadway, which apparently has been very successful.
So I wanted to ask, so you've got pop-ups going on.
Yes.
Is it like a place that is open Monday to...
No, it's open 4 days a week, Thursday to Sunday.
Okay.
And it's only 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. And it's in Fulham Broadway, up the escalator and on the left. You can't miss it once you're up the escalator. And it's on the same floor as the cinema and the there's a
little work centre, but it's in the site where a famous pizza brand used to be. So that
I think that's the premises we have.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't even know that is in Fulham Broadway on top of the station, which is amazing.
I saw Rowena at an event she also did at Bishop's Park recently, the other evening, and met a couple of other Fulham artists there as well, Jane Bristow. Rowena said actually they've done some really great sales at that spot, because I think if you're looking to buy something and you would love something, I don't know, if you want a picture of Fulham, for example, it's the perfect place to go and find something. There's some really, really beautiful work.
Tony Hannaford that I mentioned, he has an allotment and he does pastels of the allotment, and they're so colourful and so beautiful.
Yes.
But this pop-up has been very successful in that we have 16 new members.
Fantastic.
wow.
So
Yes, they've
people
seen
have
it, yes,
discovered
and said,
you.
oh, how can I go?
Where's your studio? Is it
I
at
have
home?
in the backyard. I've taken about a third of the space, and I had a purpose-built shed. It's taller and broader than a normal shed, but it really is just a shed. And I've got a wheel and a kiln and a sink, and then some shelves. And of course, the family use it as a dumping ground.
Of course they
So
do.
I have to move everything out and pull the kiln from the wall because it's a wooden structure, and
Yes,
I
gosh,
can't
yeah.
be too near. So it has to be exactly in the middle of the shed.
Do you still produce? Do you still make
Well, all the
stuff?
time. And I go to a drop-in studio up Putney, the Putney Art. And that means that I can they don't have a tutor for the class. You just go in and do your own thing. It's only for advanced students. And I can access their clay. They've got some wonderful clays. I've still got some of my own, but it's not having a pottery shop in Fulham now that I used to. I used to be able to go and get clay, put it in my shopper and wheel it home.
Oh.
So do you glaze and paint and do all of that
Yes,
as well?
I sometimes just glaze, but recently I've been putting decoration on with. We have a lot of sort of little pots of paint, like acrylic, but it has to be fired, and it takes a glaze. So I've been doing sort of abstract thing, and then I was in Turkey, and I saw a lovely decoration in wood in a hotel lobby, all different carved woods with flowers and things, and I made sketches of them, and I've been putting them on pots.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So is pots your main thing? Is that what you make?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the making of it and the shape.
Do you still sell then?
Oh, yes, I sell at the exhibitions, and then people ring me up and say, I want a casserole for a wedding present or something.
Fantastic. So you do
wow.
commissions.
So
Yeah.
you do commissions. That's lovely.
Yes.
What's the latest piece, the most recent piece that you've done?
I did something that I was really pleased with at Putney, and they have a lovely porcelain, which is very difficult to work with, but it was just a bottle shaped, but I had 2 glazes splashed on, and it came out very, very well. And I'm now doing a
Guess
tea
what,
set.
Melinda? You can't have a
tea
seat.
set.
I'm doing a tea set in porcelain, and hope to repeat the glaze. It was so
You
lovely.
were so happy with it.
So what's your signature? We call it in the world your
Yes.
unique selling point or USP. What is your signature?
Functional.
Oh,
Functional,
wow. Okay.
domestic, but highly artistic. Decorate. I mean, I'll do a jug, an home jug, but I'll then twist a handle and make a handle so that it's, it's 2 coils twisted, and then it's quite high, and it holds well.
So pottery with a
And
twist.
Yes. We have a book of pottery marks, ceramic marks.
Okay.
And I've had several different ones because
So people recognise and know that it's you,
yes.
basically.
I
yeah.
didn't want to use the word. My maiden name is Leach, and my husband's name was Evinson, and he didn't want me to use Evinson on pots because he was a local art historian, and he wrote books and things, and he didn't want, he wanted us to be separate.
Yeah.
And so I said, but I can't use the word leech. I mean, you know of Leach, don't you? I said, as far as I know, I'm no connection with them. And if I start putting Leach on pots, it looks, But so at first I just put Hazel, and then I put HL. And then it was only when I started selling and people were enthusiastic and saying how, I'd always use your pot, it's wonderful, or I've broken your pot, will you make me another? I thought, well, perhaps I won't let down the name of Leach. So now I put H. Leach.
Oh.
And I can change that. Potters do. If you see in the Pottery Mark book how many people have got.
So is there a big book that comes? It comes
It's
out.
very thick.
How
yes.
often does it come out? I never knew that existed.
I did it about 35 years ago, and they wrote to me about 15 years ago and said, we're updating it. Have you got any update? And I just wrote back and said, no, just print.
Keep doing. Gosh, that's amazing that they keep a record of all of them.
Yes,
wow.
Yes. So you can date things, you see.
Yes.
So if you for historians in the future, they can say, oh, Hazel, that must have been one of her early pots.
Hazel Leach from Fulham. That's one of her pots.
Yes.
And talking about Fulham, what changes have you seen in all the times?
Well,
you must see
all the restaurants, the shops, the boutique sort of shops. The whole place, I said it was like Sheffield, because we lived in a sort of working class place in Sheffield, and it wasn't pretentious or anything. It was all right. And Fulham had this sort of feel then, but now it's got very upmarket a bit, not as much as Chelsea. It's not pretentious, I think, but it has expanded, and people have decorated the front of their houses more, and you don't see many streets that are really down. You'd say, "Oh gosh."
So was it like that back in the day? Then was it a bit shabby?
It was. It was not as posh as it was now. And at the corner of the top of our road was a greengrocer's where you walked down the steps into this cellar-like place, and you had bags of potatoes and carrots. And
now you have bellies and sage.
And then there was another one across the road, similar, and they were run by Fulham people.
Yeah.
And then we had a stall in Munster Road 3 days a week with fresh fish. And it was.
So you could just literally come out of your house, get all your things and go home. And North End Road, because I always hear people used to tell me, I don't know if that's more in the 60s, 70s, that North End Road was beautiful, and there was a Marks and Spencer's, and it was really, it was a proper high street.
Woolworths of Marks and Spencer's. There were 2 Sainsbury's, but they weren't, of course, they weren't serve yourself. You had in one Sainsbury's, you had all the sort of wet things like meat and egg and things like that. And then in the other, you had things like cornflakes and biscuits. And you had to queue. And there wasn't it was very small. They were both very small. And you had to literally fight to be, it's me next. She came after me. and when we got the self-service, it was wonderful. I mean, when you've got children in the pram and perhaps a toddler, and you're queuing just to get back,
I can't even think about it.
It took a long time, but now, of course, after it came, you just got your trolley and you put the baby in the trolley and went round. Yeah, yes, I've seen all those changes.
This is what I always said. It's so fascinating, to, with all due respect, to meet somebody that has seen the changes.
Yes.
It just. Obviously, we're going to see changes, and you have seen changes,
I've seen
and
changes.
I am seeing changes, But I think that the life that you have lived, we will never live.
No.
But what change have you seen in the art world? So how did the art and the pottery and everything change?
They've closed. There were 6 potteries in Fulham when I first started.
Wow.
6. South Kensington and Fulham.
Yeah.
There was Our Lady Victories, Mary Boone.
Were they all potters in Fulham?
There were potteries, and they were the adult institutes with French classes and painting classes as well. Wow. And gradually, they sold them to people. Beaufort House was the one that we regretted most, because we had a wonderful pottery there. And that's where I first started teaching. But I can't really blame the council because they did tear down the old school and build flats for nurses, but for council workers. Fine. But then I went to Sands End, and that was a massive site. It had been an industrial site or laundry or something, and it went on for quite a couple of acres, and it had several floors, and we had jewellery there and pottery, art classes, and all the office work was done.
Is that
there.
the old laundry building,
Yes,
Imperial Laundry?
Yes,
yeah.
and they sold that to speculators.
Or is that at the end of?
It's just off town. It's just off
Broughton
Road.
Road.
That's
yes.
right, Town Road. Yeah.
And they sold that to speculators who gutted the whole thing and then sold units for £1 million for people to do their own flat. I don't know how many they sold. I don't know whether they did, and then we had to go into share with Hurlingham School, which is not ideal to to have the same cupboards and the same space as children. They have a different aspect of their thing.
So do we have a pottery now? Do we have a place?
We only have the caretaker's house in Macbeth Street, Hammersmith. Off Hammersmith Road. There's a big GLC school. And now that's mostly either for special needs or for English as a second language, things like that. I think they have a few art classes and a few classes.
So there isn't actually a place.
But then this caretaker's house, they don't have a caretaker, or he lives somewhere else, and they made that into a small pottery just on the bottom floor. That's the only one in Fulham now.
In the borough, because it's not even in Fulham. So 6 from Fulham to just one in Hammersmith.
Yeah. I could have made a living teaching after I retired, because people say, "Oh, can we come and learn?" And I said, "My pottery, it's just not big enough, and I haven't got enough space to get, to give you a proper glazing and things like that." Yeah. And I've only got a kiln that I'm very protective of, because the elements can wear out if you're firing it all the time. Ours were always going wrong, and even at Putney they are, because you fire such a up to 1300 degrees centigrade, and it's wear and tear on those elements, and they're very expensive to move. So I fire as little as possible. And at Putney, you see, if I make something and I want to keep it, and if I'm not in a hurry for it, I just pay. You pay for the weight of the clay. You weigh your pot, and it goes into the kiln, and then it comes out, and you glaze it for no extra charge, and it goes in the kiln again.
Wow!
So that is much more cost effective. But if I have to have something, say for an exhibition, and the kiln's gone wrong at Putney, or there's not going to be any firings, I will bring my own kiln out. It's a little top loader. Looks a bit like a spin dryer, but it's a little bit bigger than that. And so I'm limited to, I think, 16 or 17 inches high, and the same.
That's as big as you can go.
Yes.
So is anyone from your family, doing the same trade, or is it anyone?
No, not
one
at
artistic.
all. Not at all. They've not picked it up, and even my grandchildren. The grandchildren, when they were small, I used to take them into the pottery when they came. When I was looking after them. Yes, I used to sit them in front, because mine was a sit-down wheel. And I used to sort of half throw it and let them think that they were throwing it, things like that. And they loved it, and we'd splash around and lots of things. But no, they're into languages, both of them. So,
well, it's still an art. It's still being creative.
Yes,
languages is.
Yeah.
Well, we've got something that we do with all of our guests, and it's called a on-the-spot question. Now, because it's 2 of us, you get 2 of them. It's an offer. Do you want to start, Melinda? You want to go first?
Sure, I'm happy to. Apart from wishing to have a pottery back in Fulham, because that would probably be top of your list, what is something from back in the day when you were first in Fulham that you miss and you wish you could have back in SW6?
I don't know if you miss...
Oh, yes, the theatre.
Oh.
The theatre. There used to be in Bishop's Park, where they now have a sort of space for people on scooters and things like that. There was a little theatre.
Like an outdoor theatre?
Outdoor theatre.
Oh,
and we
wow.
Yes,
Never know.
Yes,
Gosh.
yes.
I
We
didn't
had
know.
the Royal Ballet's school used to do a performance every summer, and we had Fulham Orchestra run by, strangely enough, it was taken over by somebody called Joseph Vandenut, and he was the conductor at Rambert when I was at Rambert.
No,
So
gosh.
we used to talk about Rambert, and when I saw him, because I used to see him at Beaufort House quite often, and he used to give concerts there, the symphony concerts, and there were all sorts of comedy things. And in the summer, they just had seats all around, and then it was a nice stage with curtains and an awning over it. And if it was a nice day, people just used to sit down. Perhaps if it was a concert, they'd listen to one thing and then go. But the ballet productions I used to love, the students.
I didn't know.
They were lovely.
Never
They did
heard.
Papalia, and yes, all the greats. But
Was it free that you would just turn
free,
up then?
yes,
Oh,
yes,
wow.
yes.
Wow. How
And then they
amazing.
then for years and years, they didn't do anything there, and eventually pulled it down.
Oh, such a
Oh.
shame.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
yes,
that's
I'd
a
like
good,
to have
good
that
one that we
back.
could
Very
wish to
good
have
one,
back.
and we've learned something new.
Yes.
Right, so
yes.
you know how we all love London for its
Yes.
different pigs
Yeah.
and places and
Mm.
sides. We all know you've been here in Fulham for so long,
Yes.
but everybody's got a soft spot, for different areas. Which one is yours?
Yeah, I like South Kensington.
Okay,
But
so not far
yes,
away.
Yes, yes, yes. We were I was in a hostel when I first came when I was 17, and we used to come down to South Kensington to the museums and the Oratory Church and everything, and have tea and cakes. And Richmond. I like Richmond very much, but they're all out of my price range now.
No, exactly.
Well, and you're very lucky to live with your sons where you
Yes,
are. Being
yes.
by yourself in Richmond, you and the deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Richmond as well. I think everybody that lives in Fulham, they either say Richmond, Wimbledon, or what's it called? The one in North London with a view. Hampstead Inn.
Hampton, yes.
Yeah, Hampstead Inn.
yes,
So it's
yes.
only those three I always hear from people. Or Chiswick.
Yes.
But very
Chiswick's nice.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
very satisfied
Yes.
with the answers.
Yes.
Oh, it's been really lovely having you in the studio,
yeah,
Hazel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And gosh, I can't believe all your amazing talents of ballerina, potter, a potter who likes to paint.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
You know what? Like
yes.
we would just do a episode to ask you how what were the changes and find out some
Yes.
amazing things
Things
like
yes,
the ballet in
yes.
Bishop's Park, which we never
Yes,
knew
yes.
of. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming.
okay.
Should we just not forget thanking our sponsors?
we have to give a huge thank you to our podcast sponsor, the Fulham FC Foundation. So thank you for
Thank
making
you.
this podcast possible. And also massive thanks to the team here at VOXPOD Studios in Parsons Green. Thank you once again, Hazel. It was really, really lovely to meet you.
Yes.
And we'll see you at the pop-up or at our
Yes.
event soon.
Yeah.